Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. The title of this conference is The Role of Positive Action in Building a Better World. But how can we be sure that the actions that we take are positive? According to the Quran, salvation is only possible through belief, iman, and submission to one God. Most of Nursi's work is also centered on the concept of divine unity. But what does it mean in practice to be submitted to one God? We say it, but what does it mean? How do we practice that? How are we meant to apply the concept of divine unity to every instance of our lives? Nursi points to the contradictory state of human beings who crave permanence. They want something that lasts, wishing that everything they love would last forever and ever. Thank you. And yet seek it within an ephemeral world, a world that everything dies in, where everything is in a state of change and flux. Nursi states that it is precisely this attachment we have to created beings, to makhluk beings, or as he calls it, to the metaphorical beloveds, which brings about pain and suffering. By using his own experiences, because that's all Nursi's work is about, he talks about his own private life, Nursi is able to take his readers with him on his life journey. So it's like a safar, a journey with Nursi when we read his books, in order to show that everything in the makhluqat, in the creation, is a sign, is an ayah, which if read correctly, can point to the other. And Nursi expresses the term ma'nai harfi. So when we read everything as a sign, then that is ma'nai harfi, rather than to itself, ma'nai ismi. So if we read everything that we encounter and experience in our life as a sign directly from God, there is the potential there for guidance and salvation. Alternatively, if this connection is not made, if it's cut, if you see an apple only as an apple, as a material thing, and nothing more, then whatever supposedly good we do will not lead to salvation. Therefore, positive action without the connection to the Khaliq, to the Creator, cannot be considered to be positive action. Nursi is therefore saying that we don't read the creation in ma'nai harfi way and follow what he calls the line of philosophy. So when we don't make that kind of connection, it's ma'nai ismi, it's the line of philosophy, instead of it being the line of prophethood, where that connection is made. We're then misusing the trust, the amana, that has been given to all human beings. Now, the concept of the trust is in turn linked closely to Nursi's explanation of the role of ana, literally translated as I, self, which he describes as the key to the hidden treasures of the creator of the universe. So it's this ana that is the key to all the hidden treasures of the universe. Don't we all want to find that key? Since the secrets of the universe are only accessible through the understanding of ana, the focus of this paper will be on this concept. We'll be talking about ana. So what is this ana, which Nursi describes as the key to the secrets of the universe? All the asrar of the universe can be opened with this key. Nursi states that ana is a component of the trust. The trust gives human beings the choice to either use Anna in the correct way, with the potential to reach the highest level in creation as Adam did, reach Ahsan Taqweem, or to misuse it as Iblis did and fall to the lowest level, Asfal Safilin. In the Quran, it makes it clear that this trust, this amana, that is the ability to reach the highest level in creation, was only offered to Adam and by extension to all human beings. That's in chapter 2 from 30 to 34 in the Quran. Indeed, we offer the trust to the heavens and the earth and the mountains, and they declined to bear it and feared it. But man undertook to bear it. Indeed, he was unjust and ignorant. Here, the angels were shocked to hear that Adam was foolish enough to accept such a huge responsibility. However, what they did not perceive was the fact that humans were created in God's image. So they had the potential to understand and manifest all the names of Allah and his attributes, whereas the angels themselves could only manifest particular attributes according to their duties. So they didn't comprehend how man could actually reach a higher level. What concerned the angels also was the ability that was given to human beings to betray the trust by exercising ownership over those attributes of perfection. Hence create all the troubles that we see in this world now. All comes out of using Anna the wrong way and owning what we do and what we have. It seems that Iblis was already given this ability, for he chose to disobey God and not recognize Adam as a higher level of creation. Iblis was a jinn and a believing servant of God who resided in heaven amongst the angels. But he fell from this high status and was cursed because he refused to bow down to Adam. His reasoning was that he was of higher status than man, since he was made from smokeless fire, while man was made from clay. It was this arrogance and excessive reliance on his own judgment, his own limited reasoning, which led to his downfall. What is more is that he did not repent, but continued to rebel and ask God for respite until the day of judgment. He asked God to be given the ability to lead humans astray, and this is exactly what he did to Adam, and by extension, continues to do to all human beings. So Adam also had a high status in paradise, but was commanded by God not to approach a specific tree. This gave Iblis the opportunity to whisper suggestions to him and his wife and deceive them by pretending to be their sincere advisor, and thus brought about their downfall. However, a distinction must be made between the fall of Iblis and the fall of Adam. For while Adam was deceived by Iblis and tasted the forbidden fruit and hence his fall from heaven, Iblis used his own limited reasoning as justification to disobey God. What is more, while Adam repented for his momentary lapse, Iblis remained proud and failed to submit to God's will. Although both Adam, and by extension all human beings, and Iblis fell from heaven, through repentance, Adam was given the potential to consciously reach the highest level in creation, Ahsan Taqweem, whereas Iblis covered the truth by continuing to rely on his own limited reasoning and judgment. We can say, therefore, that God made good of evil. For without the fall of Adam and Iblis's whisperings, human beings would not have the potential to discern between good and evil and consciously reach the highest level of creation. We are therefore created with the potential to reach the highest level in creation or fall to the lowest level, as I've listed. According to Nursi, the potential to reach the highest level in creation lies with Anna. Anna holds the key with which the treasures of the universe can be opened. So, what are these treasures? These treasures, then, according to Nursi, are the divine names and attributes of God, and the secret of understanding them lies with Anna. So now we know what these treasures are. They're the names and attributes of Allah, and the key to open those treasures is Anna. Anna does not have an external existence, as it is merely a unit of measurement or a tool. Without it, we would not be able to understand who we are and what is our purpose in creation. It is an imaginary entity, similar to the horizon. Now we can see the horizon. It has a reality, but it doesn't have actually has a real material existence, does it? There's nothing there, but it's something that we can measure. So it appears, but it doesn't have an external existence. The purpose of Anna is that it should be used purely as a unit of measurement for solving the secret or the riddle of divine and human existence. It therefore holds the key to the existential questions. These are important questions, such as, what is my purpose here in this world? What happens when I die? And so on. So, what we see in creation are actually names and attributes of God. And just like Adam, humans were taught how to read the names of God before they entered this world. So that was the trust, actually, that for us, we were taught the names and attributes, and we were taught the trust was not to abuse those names, not to own them. Therefore, we all have the potential to recognize beauty, wisdom, power, and so on. These are all Allah's attributes. But we have been given the will to either attribute these names to its rightful owner, which is Allah, or to usurp them, own them for ourselves. This is what Nursi calls the trust, that is, samples through which God's attributes of dominicality and the function of divinity can be known. The I-ness, or self, can therefore be used as a unit of measurement for understanding those attributes. So we use the I to know Allah. In another talk, we keep saying we need to trust Allah, we need to have Iman, we still love Allah, but how do you love Allah? How can I, if someone just walks in here, how can I love that sister? How can I love her if I don't know her? We need to get to know Allah. We need to know, as Muslims, we're not just born Muslims, we need to know our God. And how do we know? Nursi says through his names and attributes. Allah is talking to us through the creation, and we are not reading them. So, however, on the account of the fact there is no limit to God's attributes, the I can delude itself, this is where it can trick us, into thinking that it owns those attributes. While an initial sense of ownership is necessary, as it is the only way that those attributes can be perceived, they do have to eventually be returned to the rightful owner. So we can, at the beginning, own something in order to realize, oh well, Allah, just as I did this painting, Allah must have created the whole universe. But then later on, we have to think and realize that, okay, I did this painting, but do I control my hand? Do I control my arm? Do I control my brain? Actually, it is Allah who actually gave me that ability to do this drawing. So at the beginning, that kind of initial ownership is necessary to realize that we own actually nothing. So Nursi explains that, how Anna is used. With its apparent ownership, it may understand the true ownership of its creator. And with its partial knowledge, it may understand his knowledge. And with its small amount of acquired art, it may understand the originative art of the glorious maker. For example, the eye says, as I made this house and arranged it, so someone must have made the universe and arranged it, and so on. So while this initial imaginary ownership of attributes is necessary, Anna can either delude itself and betray the trust by refusing to abandon this imaginary dominicality, or alternatively, it can follow all the prophets in the past who learned that the eye merely serves as a tool for understanding the concept of the absolute. So all our troubles in this world is actually because we don't use Anna properly, and we end up owning Allah's attributes. Nursi refers to the former option as the line of philosophy. This line chooses to usurp the names and attributes of God, such as power and beauty and so on, for itself. It's my power, I did it. And so there's conflict between people, between countries, between families. And continues to rely on the self rather than seek guidance from revelation. Opposed to this, the line of prophethood is how Nursi describes those possessors of Anna who acknowledge their impotence, their ajz, and give back the attributes which they initially owned to its rightful owner. So we need to consciously go back to how we were a baby. Now, if you're a baby, it's totally recognize its own impotence. If you put a baby, but if you pick him up and put him in the middle of a busy highway, motorway, he doesn't complain, he'd still giggle. He doesn't know what's happening. It's totally submitted to Allah. We need to, as believers, to be in that kind of state, but consciously, totally submitted, to attribute that everything happens actually is from Allah. Nursi talks about Abraham's journey as mentioned in the Quran in chapter 6, verse 74, a journey that all human beings have to go through in order to find the absolute creator. So not just unbelievers, we all have to constantly go through this journey like Abraham did. We understand from that verse in the Quran that Abraham examined the creation around him in search of permanence. But then he looked at the stars, he looked at the moon, he looked at the sun, and he saw that they all eventually set. Celestial bodies, everything around him had a fleeting existence, nothing lasted, everything went. So he understood. He looked at the creation. His belief was looking through the creation and seeing the creation for what it is. He didn't see it in a mane esmi way. He realized, he looked for meaning beyond the things that he saw, and he saw their impermanence. And he understood the pointlessness of attaching oneself to anything in this world, and the fact that all created beings were nothing more than signs, ayah, pointing to their khaliq, to their creator, and therefore were not worthy of worship or attachment. All human beings go through the same journey as Abraham in this world. We are also given the choice to either delude ourselves by owning God's attributes or to give them back to its rightful owner. Everybody accepts the attributes. Everybody can see, because we were all taught them. Qudra, hikmah, rahmah, beauty. You see, there's no one that doesn't recognize the attributes. But what we can do is either deceive them, own them for ourselves, or to give it back to its owner. This is why belief in one God is the main principle of faith in Islam. And as it is stated in the Quran, shirk, the ascribing of partners to God, is the worst of sins. According to Nursi, it is only through the affirmation of divine unity that existence becomes meaningful. Alternatively, he states that without this connection to Allah, the universe would resemble a house of sorrows, a ruin, and a place of utter confusion. Can we imagine that if you're in a car and we're driving and we're ignoring all the signs around us? Everything will be bumping to everything else, there'll be absolute chaos. Okay, when we don't attribute things to Allah, it's not physical chaos, but there's absolute spiritual chaos. Everybody is bumping to each other, there's wars, there's everything that's happening. There is this spiritual chaos is happening. It's like driving without taking any notice of the signs, or people just going crazy, maybe closing your eyes and driving. So a lot of us, without belief, without connection to Allah, we are driving without reading the signs, we are driving without making that connection to Allah. Nursi explains that the line of philosophy, or so-called civilization, which sees everything as pointing to itself, mana is me, deludes us in thinking that permanent satisfaction can be obtained from ephemeral beings. So, the civilization, the so-called...
Can you please wind up?
Yeah, the so-called civilization, which is supposed to be progressive, is actually teaches us to rely on ephemeral beings. We thus usurp God's names for ourselves and, unlike Abraham, refuse to give them back. We form an attachment to the objects we love, such as our hometown, our car, our clothes, our mobile phones, our race, and even our religion for our own self-nafs, rather than seeing things loaned to us by God to look after in the best possible way, and return to Him when the time comes for us to detach from them. According to Nursi, then, the expectation of permanence from ephemeral beings is like the taste of poisonous honey. For while it gives us an initial sweet taste, in fact, it is extremely harmful for us. He describes these quick senses of pleasure as extremely painful, stating that a single worldly pleasure yields numerous pains, as though dealing 10 slaps for a single grape. We should therefore not be deceived by the kind of civilization that tries to offer us permanence from impermanent things. Instead, Nursi states that we should see creation in terms of officials charged with duties and bearing meanings. Therefore, civilization, which encourages attachment to ephemeral beings, will not satiate our need for permanence, as it is insubstantial. Whereas seeing the creation in a manoy harfi way, or signs pointing to the Creator, gives us a sense of permanence and belonging. Nursi therefore advises that this sense of satisfaction can only be obtained if we work for God's sake, meet with others for God's sake, labor for God's sake, act within the sphere of for God's sake, on account of God. Then all the moments of your life will become like yours.
Thank you, Mahshid Turner.